Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing a lot of really heady topics. First question is, what is the thumbnail about? Well, one is, I did another video on this. I do want to apologize for not apologize, but I want to put some recent hyperbole into perspective. And I'll apologize, if I will, to the viewers if it's been tough to watch me the last few weeks. I've been very frustrated. This part of the year is always tough. I discuss it at length in another video. But long story short, I've noticed some people have said, hey, are you okay? You're getting a little frustrated and crazy. You know, we're not trying to watch Alex Jones here. You know, fair enough. I get it. That's not the purpose. So the hyperbole, I get, and I'll apologize for that. My thinking, my problem here, I'm not going to apologize for that. In my heart of hearts, I think that some really inappropriate stuff has gone on here as it pertains to the law in Thailand. But I'm going to sort of set that aside. So the purpose of the thumb, though, is this great scene from Star Trek First Contact where Captain Picard says, the line must be drawn here, this far, no further. You know, like it's a great scene. But it also shows that you can get overwrought, you know, with emotion too. So it's kind of the purpose of the meme, if you will, for the thumbnail for this video, is to sort of convey that, if I may. Now, that said, there's also the issue of inappropriate lawfare, for lack of a better term. And that's the point of the title, again, this refractive legalism. This is what I've come up with to call this brand of lawfare in an international context. So, first of all, if you're a Trekkie, I think also the thumbnail is appropriate because there's a different scene in that same movie, Star Trek First Contact, where they have to build, and I quote, an interplexing beacon. Only Star Trek speak can come up with such terminology. Interplexing beacon. The point is, these Borg, these people that are like this cancer, they basically are like cyborgs that just, they colonize and they just take over everybody. They're trying to take over Earth in the past, and they got to build this interplexing beacon, and they have to put up these different panels. They all operate together to then beam out this signal that then brings in more Borg. So that's the underlying sort of premise, if you will. Well, the tactics used by the OECD and by the purveyors of this supranational neocolonialism, because that's the only word for it. That's what this is. It's globalism in the Alex Jonesian sense of the term. In a very real sense, it's globalism. But I think a good legal terminology is it's neocolonialism via supranationalism. It's neocolonialism 2.0 is what it is. Okay? And much like the Borg in that movie, where they had to put these different panels up to build a greater structure that then pulls in more Borg to then completely overtake the target, that's what's happening here. Okay? The OECD, much like the interplexing beacon panels, uses this refractive legalism. So they can send Yellen could send IRS agents around the world based on Biden's announcement of an intention to possibly promulgate OECD legislation in the future. So now he directs Yellen, but he didn't do anything because clearly the auto pen was doing everything. So Yellen, it looks like, was kind of running this, except then you have to ask how much was she doing, because one, I don't know what's going on much up in that woman's head. And if you watch that interview where that senator was talking about banking matters with her, and then she was with Xi Jinping tripping on mushrooms, whatever. So then she comes down with this and says, okay, we're going to do this OECD thing based on the notion that we're eventually going to pass the law. Then over here in Thailand, they set up another panel of the interplexing beacon to bring in the Borg of the OECD in the form of coming over here and saying, oh, Thailand's now exploring OECD, and so it's our intention to be in line with this. So now we're going to change some things to be in line with that. Now, Trump, perhaps through divine intervention on a certain level, and I don't think that's hyperbole, frankly, but Trump comes in and says, cut. No OECD in America. Affirmatively, this thing, we're recapturing our sovereignty, which is very relevant in a Thai context. This is extraterritorial. We can't have this. He cuts it. So now it is not the presumption of the United States that we're ever going to pass this legislation. So again, in an American context, I don't know where tax analysis is much changed. Okay? And again, it's going to depend on the specifics in given cases. I've already said I'm doing a moratorium on publicly talking about tax matters on this channel. That should not be viewed that way. I'm simply pointing it out from a legislative perspective. Legally speaking, in America, you know, we had this non-legal color of law thing in Biden saying they were planning on trying to pass this law, which never came to pass. And Trump just said, well, forget that either way. So where does that leave us legally? It leaves us nowhere. All of that stuff was superfluous and irrelevant, okay? But again, the point I'm trying to make is to put this in the broader perspective of what is going on. They're trying to build this interplexing beacon to bring in supranationalism, which will, much like a coup, effectively, it will limit Thailand's sovereignty with regard to certain policies that she can make. That looks to be the intent of this supranationalist structure. And is that good for Thailand? I don't see where it is. Clearly, the President of the United States said it's not good for America. So I think it needs to at least be re-examined or examined. I think the right word is examined. We're still examining it. I think we should examine these data points in the totality of all of the examination to come to a final decision. I think you can probably guess what I think the conclusion should be. But that being said, I think it's important to point out what is going on here because it is very subtle, and if you can't see it both broadly, both at the macro and micro level, it can be hard to understand what exactly is happening. But clearly to me, this is Neo-Colonialism 2.0, infringement of sovereignty via supranationalism.